after studying a lot of equations and matrices and all sort of multiplication and all, this concept of mine is more of the application part. It's called as something like anti-aliasing. Now, gamers or people who are very much obsessed with TVs with resolution, high resolutions and all, would have actually heard of this term. And if you know the meaning, very good. But taking a wild guess, can anybody just tell me what an anti-aliasing feature is? Anyone? Alright, most of us have seen this, most of us have felt this as a problem, but we wouldn't have paid much attention to it because for one, we are just concerned with the total outcome. We don't see how every particular pixel is designed. So that is one of the reasons why we don't pay much attention. But nowadays, because of high resolution and we need preference for quality of the image, anti-aliasing is one such feature which is paid very high attention to, which is given very much high attention. To just broadly tell in very simple words, it is something like this. For example, you open MS Paint, okay, and there you just draw a perfect straight line. So how do you know that the line which you have just drawn is perfectly straight?
Zoom in.
That is one of the options, okay.
Press shift and click it again.
Right. That is actually better. That's actually quite efficient rather than zooming in. So one option is shifting and then making the alignment perfect. Or otherwise, if you have very good observation, if the line is constructed something like this, a small step here. How many of you have noticed this? Most of us, right? Or for example, if you draw a diagonal line like that, it is not going to be straight on paint because every pixel is a square. So every time you draw a line like this, magnifying it say for about 10,000 times, only pixels which are placed at the diagonals of each other will start to glow. Right? So what you get would be something like this. The image would appear something like this. This is how it has to appear ideally, but this is how it will appear. So this is called Jagged or a Jagged effect or staircase effect. Okay. Now, this was a very large problem which was dealt with, say in the early 90s, because if most of you have played this game called NFS 1 or the first game of NFS, it was nothing but a red box kind of a figure, which was again jagged like that. It never had smooth edges. All it had was something like this, and you had a track, and you had to keep on moving ahead. So this is how the first game was. Now here there is absolutely no concept of anti-aliasing or smooth edges or anything. But in real life, as and when the years passed, people started to give more attention on the smooth surfaces. For example, consider your hand. Right? So if you want to construct right. So this is okay, kind of straight, but then what if you have to implement this particular curve on a particular frame buffer? Then you will actually suffer this staircase effect, or you will have to overcome that. So for that, there are two techniques basically. One is area averaging technique, the other one could be the time domain technique. But then I'll just mainly concentrate on the area average technique. What the area average technique tells us, if in case you have to draw a line, and a line as in a smooth line like that, say line as in a diagonal like that, this is how it has to ideally come. Zooming this say around 10,000 times, this is how it has to ideally come. Hold on. I'm just highlighting the neighboring pixels here. So ideally, this must glow obviously, and even this filler triangle must also have the same shade as that of this the full pixel here. So to get this sort of effect, what they do is For example, there is one pixel like this, and there are obviously the surrounding pixels. And this is the next pixel, right? So this will obviously glow. There's no problem with this. What they do is, this is purely white, and this is, for example, take it as black. They take the average of the two values. Say, for example, 1 and 0, you get something like 0.5. 0.5 would be grayish in color because it's a little white and a black, a mixture of that. So this particular area is made gray. Alright. So what happens is, when you look at it on an overall, when you actually zoom out and look at it from the zoom value, say of 1.0 and not 100x, it will not look exactly like this as in an ideal case. That is, you won't get a continuous patch of line like this. Rather, you'll get something like, you'll get something like this. But at this point, probably you have a little staircase effect, but the shade here will not be zero. That is, you won't get a white patch here. You will rather get a gray image. So overall, looking at it, you will almost get a smooth line. That is, you will almost get a smooth diagonal. So that is how they overcome by using area averaging technique. That is basically it with area averaging. Now there is a small concept which most of us have heard of, but probably wouldn't have a idea.
How can you glow only half of the pixel?
Nobody is glowing half of the pixel. See, I'll just magnify it for you. These are two diagonal pixels, okay? Square pixels. It continues like that. All these are glow initially, right? So this would be the neighboring pixel. Would you agree with it? The immediate neighboring pixel of the three pixels which are glowing. They'll make this entire pixel gray. Okay? So what happens is, you'll get a patch of color with extreme black in the middle and gray, and then finally white. So it's slowly fade out. So obviously you will feel as if there is one black line and a small glow around it. That is actually better than getting a staircase effect like this. Okay? So any more doubts? No. Okay, I'll continue. Most of us have actually heard of this concept, the concept which I'm going to talk about now, but wouldn't have paid much attention. If you have, very good. While buying a TV, you would obviously go for a resolution, say of 1080p or 720p. I mean, I think pretty much these two are the most highest resolution available in the market. Other than that, if you go, few people use YouTube, and then there is something called settings there. You can actually change the resolution of the video quality further, or you can actually reduce it further. You can go up to 240 or 360 or 480, and then 720 or 1080p. Sorry? Yeah, at times, yeah, you also have 144. 144. So these are all the number of pixels which are present on your screen, that is, on your display monitor. This is how the pixels would be arranged, that is one beside the other, in a matrix form. So for example, if you take 1080p, it will be something like 1240 into 1080. So number of pixels would be the multi-product of 1040 and 1080. That is for a 1080 pixel video. Now what is the advantages of this and what has this got to do with anti-aliasing is important. For example, you take two screens, okay? You take two screens. One runs a video quality of 1080p and the other one runs a video quality of 720p. Now for example, you take a smooth line, say like that, and you take another smooth line like this. By just looking at it from far, that is on an ideal case with absolutely no zooming, both will look absolutely brilliant, very high sharpness, and the smoothness is brilliant, it's really smooth. But then as and when you pause the video and you have the zoom feature where you keep on zooming in, slowly you'll actually see this concept of anti-aliasing done. That is, a smooth line like this will actually look something like the outer part of the smooth line. You start looking like that. Okay? So most of us have noticed this but wouldn't have paid much attention. So this is actually anti-aliasing which is done. Even now there is this player called MX Player for playing all your videos on phone. If you can pause your video and then zoom in, you can actually see this particular anti-aliasing which has been done brilliantly by the software of your MX Player. That is pretty much it with this. Now the most expensive laptops are like Apple, right? So all your MacBooks. So they claim they have something called Retina display. Now again, what has Retina display got to do with anti-aliasing? How different is Retina display with respect to 1080p images? This is a very interesting fact. This is how Steve Jobs actually told about Retina display. He comes on to stage and then he tells for a normal human eye to perceive an image with infinite anti-aliasing. I'm again going to stress on the term infinite anti-aliasing, which means irrespective of how much you zoom, you will still get a sharp image like that. That is the brilliance of a human eye, right? So, irrespective of having anti-aliasing or not, your human eye perceives images in a very brilliant way. So, he says, for a human eye, the amount of pixel density per inch is going to be 300 million ppi. That is pixels per inch. So, if you take 1 inch per 1 inch square like that, with the width say of 1 inch, and this also to be 1 inch, then there are around 300 million pixels. This is how an average human eye works. Your Retina display, which runs on your Mac machines, they have up to 340 million ppi, which is actually much more than what your human eye can perceive. That is why your Apple MacBook Retina display is much more expensive, and it's almost close to achieving infinite anti-aliasing, and hence the smoothness or how much ever you zoom in, right? You can never see the anti-aliasing done on an Apple machine. It is an experimental. You can actually go home, and if you have a MacBook with Retina display, you can actually look into that. That is basically about the current trend on anti-aliasing and how you can actually verify and all the screen qualities. Sorry, the video qualities. Now, getting back to syllabus, there are just 3 points why we need to do anti-aliasing. I think this is pretty important, but then it's very easy. The first point would be, right, whenever you have to create an image, right, using any sort of software, it has to be done on a frame buffer. But the limitation is the number of pixels present on a frame buffer is constant. You can't increase the number of pixels. You just have to change the frame buffer itself or change the screen. Go for a better screen with larger number of pixels. You cannot modify the number of pixels. Hence, for a m cross n frame buffer, the number of pixels is constant or limited, right? Right. So that becomes one of the drawback, and hence because of this drawback, they have this concept of anti-aliasing. And because of anti-aliasing, we are able to get a smoother image even if there are less pixels. So the second one would be the position of the pixels. We know pixels are arranged in a matrix form, one after the other. So for example, you consider a pixel which is there in the 500th row and the 600th column. Its position will remain in the 500th row and the 600th column if you take the screen elsewhere or take a similar screen. So you can't change the position of that particular pixel. Just because you want a curved image, you can't ask one particular pixel to just shift a little and glow so that you get a curved image. So the position is fixed. So because of that, you have the jagged effect. So that is again one of the major drawback of having a pixel with a square as its boundary. Now most of us might ask, why not have a pixel with a circular boundary so that you can do all that. Number of pixels you can arrange using a circular object is obviously less. Common sense, I think. All this area is wasted, right? So that is why you don't have a pixel with a circular boundary. Moving on, position is the reason, and the third one would be, right, every pixel has got its specific size and a shape. Space I just spoke of, square, and the size, which means the width and the height of the particular pixel square. So again, the shape and its size is again fixed in a particular screen. So this is how, this is the 3 factors because of which anti-aliasing was actually introduced. Because of anti-aliasing, we are able to achieve a smoother image, and we are able to have this animation, movies, and all that done to a greater extent. Now, I think I've spoken enough about anti-aliasing. Now, the other method of achieving anti-aliasing, one was area average, which I just explained by taking the average of white and black. The other would be the time domain. Time domain is explained with respect to motion picture. That is, for example, you have an animated image and you have to make it move. We have made several such movements using our OpenGL functions. But internally, how it works is you have your rendering process, which means a process which keeps on incrementing its values, its pixel position values. For example, the first pixel is glowing for the first second. For 2 seconds, the first pixel is glowing, and then after 2 seconds, the second is glowing, then third is glowing. So it looks as if the pixel is moving. A color is moving on the screen. So basically, that is the rendering process. What happens in time domain aliasing is there is a ray of light. To just represent it on a diagram. There is a ray of light which is emitted from every pixel of the rendering process to the object or the image. Say for example, plus is an image. So it has a ray of light is emitted from a particular pixel to that image, and as and when you need to move that image, the ray of light must be incremented. That is, the ray of light must be emitted from its neighboring pixel. So as and when this plus gets incremented further and further, the position, as and when the image is moving forward, the ray of light which hits that particular image has to keep on incrementing from the particular pixel to its neighboring pixel. Or if it's moving downwards, from here up to downwards, right? Now, what if there is a mismatch in speed? For example, the image is moving faster, but then the ray which is shifting from one pixel to other pixel is moving slower. Then, at a particular point of time, you can see the plus, and for the next second you can't, for the third second you can again see the plus. So it will be like a discrete image, you won't get a continuous movement of picture. So that is one of the problem with time domain, which is again further achieved by passing or emitting more than one ray to that particular image. For example, if there is an image like this, and there are two rays emitted from this particular pixel to this image, for example like that, and there is one more ray this hitting this, and there is a small movement in this image, even then this particular pixel itself can cover that, and the next corresponding pixel can also do that. So there will be a small blur effect. Rather than having a discontinuity, having a blur is much more appreciated. So that is how this particular time domain disadvantage has been overcome. So again, summing up, I first began with telling you about area averaging technique, and then finally I ended up with the time domain. Area averaging is to smoothen a particular image and to avoid this effect called the staircase effect. In time domain, it is like for a motion picture, how to avoid discrete images and make it a continuous flow of image is what I have done here. I think I was clear. Is there any doubts? Alright, thank you.